Dire warnings.
Get out of the way of this thing.
Deadly winds. A dangerous day ahead.
That was the only game in town, and everybody was on it.
As the city of El Reno, Oklahoma braces for impact, hundreds converge to witness the gathering storm.
I mean, this is what we live for.
Oh my goodness, that is the biggest tornado I've ever seen.
Oh, horizontal!
But the powerful tornado catches even the most seasoned storm chasers off guard.
Hold on, brothers.
I was freaking out.
And everybody duck down. Everybody duck down.
And I remember being weightless at one point and floating.
This building that was just to our south just starts exploding into pieces.
The weather community suffers a devastating loss that sparks debate about the future of the chase.
He took a huge risk in this last one. He gave his life to save others.
I think this was a wake-up call for a lot of people, including myself.
That's crazy.
Friday, May 31st, 2013, Oklahoma City. Residents are on edge as weather forecasters warn of rapidly forming thunderstorms that could produce intense tornadoes.
It's kind of like you have a pot of water. You set it to boil, but exactly which point in that pot will the first bubble rise? That's what you don't know.
As the storm gathers momentum, small vortices start falling from the violently rotating cell.
Look at the size of that monster.
A tornado touches down within minutes and expands to record-breaking proportions, forcing people on the ground to run for cover.
The El Reno EF5 record width, 2.6 mile wide mega wedge developed under a historic environment. And typically, if a historic environment occurs, something big is going to happen.
The terrifying tornado, with wind speeds reaching 295 miles per hour, bulldozes fields for miles before making a sudden turn over the interstate, trapping motorists in their vehicles with nowhere to go.
We're in the path now. Where do we go?
11 days earlier, a megastorm passed through nearby Moore, where a tornado also measuring an EF5, a top rating on the enhanced Fujita scale, spent 40 ravaging minutes on the ground, leaving death and destruction in its 16.2-mile path. While area residents have been dealing with the aftermath, storm chasers know tornado season is far from over.
It just so happens that the geography and the meteorology all come together at this one place called Tornado Alley, and there's no other place like it on Earth.
The University of Oklahoma is there, the Storm Prediction Center is there, the National Severe Storms Lab. It's a hotbed of meteorological activity.
So when severe weather moves in, the enthusiasts come out. Some are chasing for the thrill.
Right here, in the field, right next to us.
Others are in it for the science.
Dude, take a picture of the structure. Take the picture of the structure. You got to get the structure, dude.
And still others are there to warn the public.
Confirming multi-vortex wedge, extremely dangerous.
Yet they all have one thing in common: the desire to understand and experience one of Mother Nature's greatest enigmas, the tornado.
Tornadoes are a big mystery because, for one thing, they're very difficult to study, to get real detailed measurements.
You're approaching a twisting storm. Please exercise caution.
Why do some rotating thunderstorms produce tornadoes, others don't? Probably about 3/4 of those rotating thunderstorms don't produce tornadoes.
And on that Friday evening in El Reno, Oklahoma, these storm chasers, thrill seekers, and scientists are about to experience an unprecedented weather event.
That's the most crazy multi-vortex action I've ever seen.
Veteran weather scientist and tornado research pioneer Tim Samaras calls into MSNBC with a stern warning.
And boy, the ingredients are coming together for a pretty volatile day.
Minutes later, Samaras tweets an ominous message to his fellow enthusiasts. Dangerous day ahead for Oklahoma. Stay weather savvy.
That we monitor in the vehicle. We'll take a look at it on radar.
Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Bettis and his Tornado Hunt 2013 team closely monitor the growing supercell from the road.
We were really aware that day that it was going to be pretty violent, and we were ready to respond.
Looking at your colleagues at the National Weather Service, other media outlets, and the tone was different that day.
At 4:45 p.m., the media start to warn residents of an imminent severe weather threat.
If you live in South Oklahoma City, please go below ground.
And it looks like the Oklahoma City area is once again in the crosshairs.
Oh, that's huge! There was extreme instability. It was very, very warm, very, very moist at low levels, and there was a cold front coming toward the area. They collided just to the west of Oklahoma City. Thunderstorms exploded, quickly began to rotate.
While residents hunker down and listen for warning signals, storm chasers take to the roads.
There are a lot of Americans that are thrill seekers, that are looking for adrenaline rush in a variety of ways, a variety of activities. Certainly tornado chasing is one of them.
It's also proven to be a very lucrative business. Meteorologists and the media pay top dollar for good storm chasing video. This day, the chasers are out in droves.
Severe thunderstorm warning.
First comments were, this is going to be a difficult chase day because the storms are close together. Mid-level winds are not extremely strong, so there's going to be a lot of rain pretty close to the tornadoes. Could be hard to see them at times, hard to get in between the storms at times.
It's 5:30 p.m., rush hour, and the roads are jammed. The rapidly darkening sky is brewing a potentially deadly situation.
The tornado is moving 35 miles per hour, and we are going 3.5.
You got people leaving work, storm chasers on the roads, a lot of law enforcement on the roads, and a tornado bearing right down on them.
Road in this area that crosses.
It looks like a Rolling Stones concert just let out. I mean, it can be incredible. And on a two-lane road, on a storm that changes direction all of a sudden, it's a recipe for disaster.
Vortices begin to form, touching down at 6:03 p.m., 8 miles west of El Reno.
The El Reno tornado seemed to grow rapidly in size and intensity as it began to get some downdraft.
Here comes the second vortex.
That brought down some of the very fastest rotation that was initially aloft in the thunderstorm, brought it right down to the ground to fuel the tornado.
It was so big and dark. It just looked like a thunderstorm just touching the ground. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, that is the biggest tornado I've ever seen.
It's an important way to get people to pay attention. It's one thing to issue a warning or a watch, but if people don't get that message, then it's useless. You can have the best forecast in the world, but if it doesn't get to the people, it doesn't matter.
Guys, that's it. Right there. There's the tornado.
He has this amazing, beautiful shot behind him. But then you start to realize, well, how far away is that? Because if that's really far away, that is a huge storm.
I was a little bit concerned for their safety. I was hoping that they would begin to move and get out of the way pretty quickly.
We may actually quickly try to get in our cars and get south of this. That'd be the safest place to do that. I think
it seemed like we were not in a good spot. Like we could have been hit by the northern edge of the tornado. So the first thing on my mind was, let's cut this broadcast short. Let's go south. Let's get out of the path of this thing.
They began to do so, but unfortunately it wasn't quick enough.
Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Bettis has just gone live on air to warn the residents of Oklahoma City of a dangerous tornado heading their way.
the path of the tornado could come right over top of Union City or pass very close.
He and his tornado hunt team have spent the last 5 years storm chasing in Tornado Alley during the most volatile months of the year.
Getting hammered with hail right now, a strong storm moving its way just east of Dodge City. So the storm that we're following is actually that one right there. See where the rings are? That's our location.
I think the goal is to show people the violent force of Mother Nature. And my goal is always to show people live on TV what a tornado is. Its structure, its formation, how it forms, how it grows, how it dissipates, so they can learn something.
At the same time, the team hopes to save lives by providing what is known as ground truth during a storm.
We could see some little spin-ups through the evening. Don't want to let your guard down.
We really do need eyes on the ground during tornado situations because it makes a huge difference to the public and their response if there's been actually a sighted tornado.
When it comes to tornadoes, you only have 13 minutes on average to prepare. So that's enough time to get underground, get to a safe shelter.
You know, what we do can make a difference. It can give people that advance warning that they need to get out of harm's way.
On May 31st, 2013, the team realizes something big is brewing over Oklahoma City. For the second time in 2 weeks, the race is on, and they're not alone.
I'm Tim Samaras, and I'm a storm researcher.
During tornado season, Tim Samaras spends most of his time on the road trying to understand this incredible weather phenomenon. Tim's brother Jim Samaras has always admired Tim's dedication and courage.
Tim is an absolute storm chaser, but he's a professional storm chaser that knows what he's doing. He has told me many times, he doesn't do it for the fame and fortune like some others do. Tim does it for the scientific aspect of it and to save lives.
At 12:45 p.m., on his way to Oklahoma City, Tim does a radio interview by phone for National Geographic, where he has earned 18 grants to conduct his storm research.
The season was quiet right up until about the middle of May, and it was like a switch. It came on, and all of a sudden tornadoes were just on an incredible rampage.
He wants to see what's happening inside that tornado, just like a lot of scientists.
We deploy as many of these instruments as possible.
A number of storm chasers are actually collecting data. Those that are with the mobile Doppler radars, Tim Samaras and his team, they're out there trying to do scientific research.
But in order to do that, sometimes you have to put yourself in harm's way.
I didn't ever give it a second thought about anything happening to Tim because of his high regard for ensuring his safety of himself and his team. I don't even give it a thought.
All right, Weather Channel.
Just before 6 p.m., both Tim Samaras and Mike Bettis have independently positioned themselves southwest of El Reno to monitor the same massive tornado. And it seems to be heading straight for them.
South of El Reno, south of I-40, cops have blocked off 81 at this point.
We could see it on radar, and it was a clear hook echo radar map, which indicates the room and circulation in the thunderstorm.
Look at that monster. This is a huge tornado.
The key is to get out of its way.
We're going to try to keep our cameras on top of this, and we're going to roll just to stay safe, okay?
All right, Mike, you be safe and do what you got to do, buddy.
So we jumped in, piled in, and drove us lickety-split south.
We want to give you an idea right now of the location of this storm and how close it is to Oklahoma City.
Back in Atlanta, in the Weather Channel studio, meteorologist Chris Warren and Dr. Greg Forbes receive foreboding data.
This is a nightmare scenario, once again, unfolding for the Oklahoma City metro area. There were multiple Doppler radars very close to the El Reno tornado making research measurements.
This thing needs to be underground. They need to be in the tornado shelters.
They were seeing winds that were well above that EF5 threshold of 200 miles per hour. In fact, some were measuring at times 295 miles per hour. They could also see substructure, see some of the multiple funnels, the multiple mini tornadoes revolving about the parent tornado, and even satellite tornadoes outside the parent tornado that were revolving about it.
So seeing it all come together and seeing the GPS on the radar where that hook was, where there was likely a tornado, brought my heart up into my throat.
El Reno right here, Mike Bettis right about in the path of the tornado.
Compounding their fear, they've lost contact with Bettis's team.
And I saw that the tornado had made a left turn and appeared to have gone right over Mike Bettis and the tornado hunt team's last known position. Then I began to get more and more concerned for their safety.
I was freaking out. I thought, my God, my crew, my colleagues, I just hope the heck they're okay.
Okay, I'd like to see if we can at least get contact with Mike Bettis and the crew. And that's when I'm thinking, let's get a hold of these guys as soon as we can. I mean, not to get them back on the air, but let's talk to them and make sure they're okay.
You have to go faster. Go as fast as you possibly can.
While Mike Bettis and his team scramble south to get out of the way of the massive wedge tornado, storm riders Simon Brewer and Justin Drake are a few miles away, but rushing to the east. As the tornado bears down near El Reno, Simon calls the Weather Channel studio in Atlanta to report on the rapidly deteriorating conditions.
It's a very large tornado. Pretty violent motions on it. It's probably capable of causing some significant damage if it hits structures.
For Simon and Justin, the morning starts like all others during tornado season.
So we wake up, we look at data, we make a forecast.
But after looking at the atmospheric conditions, they realize this is no ordinary day.
We've never seen an environment this volatile, ever.
The dire forecast leads to some mixed emotions for the meteorologists.
Boy, this guy's a monster, man. Look at that base. Big, beefy.
It's very unfortunate that when something big is going to happen, that people are going to get hurt, property is going to get destroyed, some people might even lose their lives. But as meteorologists and just weather nuts, we get very excited. I mean, this is what we live for.
These storms just rapidly exploded. They went from having only 30 to 35,000 foot tops to now 50 plus.
As meteorologists and storm chasers, I mean, we're excited because we think we're going to be able to see possibly an historic event.
We wanted to be able to document the tornadoes, but not put ourselves in danger.
And as soon as it became the monster supercell of the day, that's when all the chasers started to converge.
That was the only game in town, and everybody was on it. It was clear on radar that that was the storm.
Not be surprised.
There's a big tornado back there. I was thinking the same thing, dude.
We could see it back in the rain. It was definitely down. It was kicking up debris into the air.
What made it so dangerous is at times it got rain wrapped, and people didn't understand that that wasn't just the rain. That was the tornado.
Absolutely outrageous.
And we could tell that a portion of the tornado emerged from the rain, and a lot of other chasers saw this, but they didn't see the larger tornado. So a lot of chasers started to put themselves in a very dangerous situation by getting closer to just a portion of the tornado. When we were tracking east along Interstate 40, staying to the northeast of this large, dangerous tornado, we could see other storm chasers going south.
In most cases, tornadoes move in a northeast direction, so getting to the south side of it is usually the safest move.
There's an animation that shows all the chasers going on the different streets, and it looks like Pac-Man. It's just little dots going all over it.
One of these dots, directly in the storm's path, represents Mike Bettis's team, and another, Tim Samaras, two of many chase teams about to face an epic storm. It is then that the incredibly dangerous conditions that forecasters have been predicting all day materialized into arguably the widest tornado in U.S. history, a startling 2.6 miles in width.
And within a matter of seconds, the larger tornado vortex became a mega wedge. Just one huge tornado. And it was right next to us.
That is an F5. Godly.
Concerned for their safety, Simon and Justin continue to rush east on I-40, trying to stay ahead of the massive wedge, but they head straight into the path of a satellite tornado.
While I'm trying to get video of the tornado behind us, this building that was just to our south just starts exploding into pieces.
You see that building completely get destroyed right there?
Seconds later, the storm rider's car is struck by an intense gust from the satellite tornado.
It moved us like nothing, all the way over to the left shoulder. We could feel the car getting lifted as it was hitting us. Luckily, we had enough momentum going forward. We were able to plow through that small tornado.
A fellow chaser driving directly behind Simon and Justin captures the tornado's brutal assault as it crosses the interstate.
We kept thinking, okay, some of these storm chasers are definitely getting hit. Some of these storm chasers are getting injured. Some of these storm chasers might even be killed.
Seriously, we gotta take shelter somewhere.
So we kept trying to stay out ahead of the supercell, and we ended up getting stuck in a traffic jam because everybody was trying to evacuate in the Oklahoma City area. So we decided to do a UE, head towards the airport.
It's a decision that may have saved their lives. The mega tornado takes a slight turn to the north and crosses I-40, where Justin and Simon had been just moments earlier. Just after pulling into the airport's parking garage, the storm riders are caught in yet another line of severe weather. A third tornado is heading straight for them. They continue to videotape this relentless storm. But as the winds increase, Simon and Justin know it's time to take cover.
We're able to go down to this hallway. There's close to 1,000 people down there taking shelter from the tornado. If the El Reno tornado would have continued going east and stayed at its maximum magnitude and strength, I wouldn't be surprised if the death toll would be approaching 1,000. That tornado was absolutely off the chain.
The heart of the city appears to have been spared, but many people, including experienced meteorologists, will find themselves caught in the grip of this deadly tornado.
Hold on, brothers. Hold on.
While storm riders Justin Drake and Simon Brewer find shelter at the Oklahoma City airport, other chasers can't escape the tornado's wrath.
Keep going.
Compounding the danger, the tornado grows to 2.6 miles in width in minutes, trapping seasoned chasers. Caught directly in its path, an Australian storm chaser hunkers down on I-40. A camera mounted to his rear window captures a near-death moment. The chaser then uses the flipped semi as a shield against the violent winds.
You're fine. Move. Sit down. Duck down. Duck down.
This team of chasers is miles from the parent tornado, but the winds are so powerful, they're hit with flying debris.
You're good. You're fine.
Both these chasers survive the massive tornado unharmed.
But look at that monster. This is a huge
Back at the Weather Channel studio, there has been 10 minutes of radio silence since the meteorologists have heard from Mike Bettis and his team.
Okay, I'd like to see if we can at least get contact with Mike Bettis and the crew.
This circulation appeared to have gone almost right over Mike Bettis.
Yeah.
We're concerned for their safety.
They have every reason to be worried.
I've never been in a situation where I had to outrun a storm before. This was huge. And it was scary.
You got to get ahead of it.
I think the moment that I really realized that we weren't going to make it past the tornado, we were hustling. We were trying to get past this thing. We didn't want any part of it. I think there became a point where I didn't care about the speed limit. We had to go as fast as we could to save our lives. And I remember communicating on the radar, guys, we have to go faster or we're going to get hit.
You have to go faster. Go as fast as you possibly can.
Videographer Austin Anderson is driving, while another cameraman, Brad Reynolds, tries to capture the terrifying ordeal.
Brad Reynolds in the back seat shooting out the window of video of the tornado, and you can see the rear window rolling up and puts the camera down but continues to roll on the camera. And you can hear right before we hit the wall of wind, Mike Bettis say, "Hold on, my brothers."
Hold on, brothers. Hold on.
Next thing I know, we're hit, the passenger side, my side of the vehicle is hit, and we're going in an opposite direction. And it was the scariest moment of my life.
Everybody duck, go, go, go. Just keep going if you can. Keep going if you can. Everybody duck down. Everybody duck down.
And the car lifted up right away and went airborne.
You know, and I remember being weightless at one point and floating. And all I saw was my wife's face. And I think maybe it was a sign that, you know, I needed to live for her.
As the SUV is being thrashed about by the tornado, Brad Reynolds' camera flies out of the vehicle but it continues recording while the truck rolls multiple times.
And then we stop. We land wheel side down. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm alive. Like, I'm alive. It was, I could not believe it. I thought I was dead.
I remember Mike Bettis yelling out to, stay down, everybody, stay down. Are y'all okay? Y'all okay?
And they all screamed back, yeah, are you okay? And so we knew everyone was alive. And that was a big relief, but we weren't done yet.
There was 150-mile-an-hour winds now whipping through the car. And could be flying debris or anything.
It seemed like an eternity, but it was probably about a minute until the wind finally died down enough that I could actually look out the window and see the tornado off in the distance.
The crew carefully crawls out of the crushed vehicle that barely resembles the SUV it was just minutes earlier. It is estimated that they've been tossed at least 200 yards.
We found out that Mike Bettis had survived about 13 minutes after we had last heard from him during his broadcast.
We do have meteorologist Mike Bettis on the phone. Hey, Mike, we were really worried about you there. How are you doing, and what's your situation right now?
Chris, kind of our worst nightmare. We were hit by the tornado. We were racing to get out of its path. It was coming right toward us. I got to tell you, my life flashed before my eyes.
I was certainly very glad to hear his voice, very glad to hear that the tornado hunt team had all survived. Very sad that there had been at least one serious injury in that process.
The team is grateful just to be alive, but the driver, Austin Anderson, has sustained severe injuries and needs to be rushed to a hospital.
What was found later was that my sternum has been cracked and broken. At least 4 or 5 ribs are cracked. They go all the way around to my vertebrae in the back. The thoracic vertebrae, which is up by my shoulder blades, about 4 of those are crushed. And I have 3 broken vertebrae in my neck.
As a passionate photojournalist, Austin hopes to make a full recovery and return to work. The day after El Reno, the team gives on-camera interviews to tell the story of their harrowing experience. The emotions are still raw.
No experience in my life compares to being hit by a tornado. Hands down the scariest moment in my life. One I'd never, ever want to experience again, trust me.
The next day, the Oklahoma City Medical Examiner's Office reports 5 fatalities and dozens more are injured, some of whom were the stranded motorists on I-40.
It grew and grew quickly. I think it surprised a lot of people. It surprised me. It was big when I saw it. I don't know how big it was when I initially saw it, but I know that it got huge. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know it till afterwards. And I think it expanding and accelerating and turning all at the same time caught many people off guard.
Oh no, truck upside down!
Some of the people who couldn't escape the wide reach of the tornado's path were other storm chasers. As the hours pass, the number of tornado-related deaths increases to 8. The storm-chasing community is stunned to learn that for the first time in history, a tornado is responsible for killing 4 of their own.
I was on a morphine drip the next day in the hospital when I heard about the storm chasers that had died. And I was thinking that, gosh, were they in the same tornado? And it turns out they were.
But even before the names of the dead are released, weather enthusiasts around the country notice that renowned tornado researcher Tim Samaras' Twitter account has gone silent. As news breaks that 8 people have been killed in the massive El Reno tornado,
A search for the missing and a rising death toll tonight in Oklahoma.
Renowned storm researcher Tim Samaras' ominous warning earlier in the day takes on a chilling new meaning. He'd written, "Dangerous day ahead for Oklahoma. Stay weather savvy." Tragically, Tim and his team died in the ruthless storm less than 4 hours after his message went out. The devastating news is first revealed through a Facebook posting by his brother, Jim Samaras.
Tim was an unbelievably loving father, a loving husband. He would help me out any time that I ever needed it. And his passion and his love for his family was beyond anything I've ever seen.
It was awful. I mean, I felt for his family. I felt for the entire meteorological community because we lost a pioneer. And above all, we all respected him for his contributions to the science.
The storm's moving.
I knew Tim pretty well, and it's so shocking to hear what happened to him because of anybody out there. If you said, who's the most cautious guy out there you know? All the hands in the room would go up and say, it's Tim.
I think the problem that Tim and his team must have had was that the tornado grew so rapidly in size and then made such a dramatic turn that they found themselves with no opportunity to get out of the way. It just must have come upon them too big and too fast.
Tim Samaras' body was found buckled inside the demolished chase vehicle. His 24-year-old son Paul and his longtime colleague Carl Young were reportedly each thrown a half-mile in opposite directions from the Chevy Cobalt.
When I found out that Tim Samaras had been killed, I was stunned. I had to go and sit down and gather my thoughts.
The storm-chasing community pays a moving and unique tribute to the fallen men.
All the storm chasers went together, and they have GPS baked into their cars. And they went into multiple states, and they spelled out TS for Tim Samaras, PS for Paul Samaras, CY for Carl Young.
Now, I know how many of you guys out here are doing this because Tim was your inspiration.
While weather experts mourn the loss of their colleagues, the team's families grieve the loss of their loved ones.
I felt like I was Cinderella for the 31 years I was married to him. He was my best friend. My son was my only son, and they both loved me unconditionally. He had a wonderful life, and it just doesn't seem possible that it's gone.
Ready? This is a raging supercell.
In honoring Tim Samaras, weather experts want the general public to understand the scope of his contributions and how his work has enhanced our understanding of extreme weather, not least of which was the massive twister that eventually took his life.
The kind of information that Tim Samaras and his team were collecting was vital.
Just unbelievable.
He thought of, he conceived of, he then designed, he built and deployed instruments to take measurements in tornadoes.
Tim designed and manufactured several groundbreaking inventions.
Let's go!
Including this probe that he used to measure a world record-breaking barometric pressure drop inside a tornado.
It's like a rocket on a stick, and the idea is to measure wind speeds up to 300+ miles an hour near the surface of the ground.
Wind was actually blowing me off the road.
Tim was the first to capture video inside a tornado from the ground as the twister passed above the 7 cameras he mounted inside this retrofitted pod.
And that provides us an inside look of how chaotic the winds are on the inside of a tornado. We can actually calculate the wind speed of the tornado as it passes over the instrument.
But his research was not limited to tornadoes. Tim designed and built an ultra-high-speed camera that captures lightning like it has never been seen or recorded before.
I've always had the dream of using this camera to photograph a lightning strike, that very moment of time that lightning strike touches the ground.
You know, the citizens that live in Tornado Alley will benefit from what people like Tim did for all those years, because you're gathering data. And the more data you have, the better we can understand these storms, and the better we can warn you.
Gee, what a terrible loss for the entire meteorological engineering and scientific communities. We've been deprived of all of that skill, all of that genius.
He died doing his passion.
Tim's brother Jim watched him become transfixed by tornadoes at an early age.
How he got started was through The Wizard of Oz and the tornado that was in the very beginning of the old classic movie. After the tornado was over, he really didn't care about the munchkins or the flying monkeys. He just enjoyed the tornado.
What did my son say?
Tim's son Paul inherited his father's drive to understand weather and displayed special talent for capturing the beautiful but dangerous storms on camera.
My son knew what to do. I was basically driving. He was actually hanging out of the car shooting, so he's not shooting through the windshield and windshield wipers.
Paul was more into the photography side of the tornado chasing, and that's where he was able to lend his passion. So this allowed Tim to actually be able to concentrate on the scientific side of it.
Okay, Carl, go ahead and adjust a little bit to the left.
Researcher and meteorologist Carl Young was a key player in Samaras' success during 11 years of collaboration in some of the most wicked weather imaginable. In the wake of the tragedy, Tim Samaras' death leaves a void his colleagues are just beginning to grasp.
As the wind came over,
we've lost his genius. That's not the kind of thing that you can transfer to others, but hopefully some other scientists will pick up and carry on Tim's mission.
The El Reno twister has reignited a controversy about the entire business of storm chasing.
Everybody jump, go, go, go.
Causing many to ask the tough question, should anyone chase storms given all the inherent dangers?
I think this was a wake-up call for a lot of people, including myself.
The final death toll of the enormous El Reno tornado comes to 8. Adding to the devastation is the shocking loss of experienced storm chasers Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and his partner Carl Young.
We've had tornadoes like El Reno in the past. This one was different because it was personal. We lost people. For the first time, we lost scientists in a tornado that were out there doing their job.
Almost instantly, the deaths of these respected weather scientists touch off a debate about storm chasing. If they can be killed, how vulnerable are the hundreds of amateurs who take to the roads looking for adventure?
Oh my gosh!
This is unbelievably dangerous. The last thing I want people to do is to jump on the car and say, this is cool, I want to be a storm chaser.
Whether it be a movie called Twister, whether it be video that people see online, whatever it is, it's calling out people that don't have the skill set to chase.
There it is.
And they think, well, I can do that too. No, they couldn't be further from the truth.
In fact, along with the deaths of the 3 professionals, an amateur chaser was also killed. 35-year-old Richard Charles Henderson reportedly died just minutes after sending a friend this blurry image he snapped of the tornado, the same tornado that eventually took his life.
There's a lot of storm chasers out there. I certainly hope that the deaths of 4 storm chasers in the El Reno tornado is going to give each of them pause and decide whether or not it's a risk that they're willing to take.
Oh God.
The appetite for chasing the storms has spawned an industry.
You can see it hit the ground out there.
Companies take tourists in vans throughout Tornado Alley in hopes of seeing a twister.
I could only hope that the people that run those tours are experienced meteorologists and they know what they're doing.
Even if every storm chaser were experienced and safe, the growing numbers of those on the road are making it more dangerous.
You see the storm coming and the chasers moving.
Oh no, truck upside down!
If you all of a sudden are caught up in a traffic jam and a tornado's coming in your direction, what can you do?
Well, this is rush hour traffic with a supercell going right through.
So the combination of all that on small roads is a very dangerous thing, because a storm that makes a left hook or a right hook suddenly puts a lot of people in harm's way.
Above all, there is a serious mission on the part of severe weather experts to warn the public.
Guys, that's it. Right there. There's the tornado.
The purpose of Mike and Tim and a lot of these people that go out is to do research.
Due west of us right now.
And when they see a tornado, they can then call the National Weather Service and warn everybody there's a tornado.
But are there times when it's not worth the risk?
When it gets to a certain level, the atmosphere looks a certain way, maybe you don't go out. Stay home.
Sometimes you have to put yourself in harm's way. You have to get that probe where the tornado is going to come across. And that's not easy. You can't just chuck it out there.
There is hope that advanced technology may make it easier for researchers and forecasters to stay safe.
Technology will always improve. Armored vehicles, run flat, tires, all these things are great.
We may be able to fly drones, unmanned aircraft, to gather some of that data so that humans don't have to get in, place instruments, and then try to get out of the way.
But the technology isn't there yet. And for Mike Bettis, his near-death experience in El Reno has given him a fresh perspective.
Keep going if you can. Everybody duck down. Everybody duck down.
You don't have to be right next to a tornado to warn somebody about it. We have done it so many times. You know, I think maybe you feel a little bit superhuman sometimes, a little bit too cavalier. I'm living proof of that. Way too close. The fact is, the farther away you are, the better the picture is. You get the whole supercell, you get the tornado. In most instances, it's a better experience to be farther away.
Whoa! You see this?
But storm riders Justin Drake and Simon Brewer have not been deterred. Just days after the El Reno tornado, they're back on the hunt.
We know we're experienced. We know what to look at, and then make a decision from there if we need to keep heading eastward or southward or whatever direction we have to head to stay out ahead of the storm.
The possibility of us getting killed is there, and that's the risk that we put when we go out chasing. So we've been in life or death situations. It comes with the job.
For Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and his partner Carl Young, they made the ultimate sacrifice, pursuing a passion they believed in.
He took a huge risk in this last one. Is it worth it? Absolutely, because he gave his life to save others. He gave up his life for his passion, what he enjoyed doing, and being able to save lives. And that's the legacy I'd want to see him carry on.